Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. Many of you have asked me to do a video on seed bead sizes. This can be the most confusing when you go to order online and see seed bead sizes and finishes. It's overwhelming. Actually, it's not that hard. Now I'm using a quarter to give you something for proportion. A quarter, for those of you who are not in America, is about an inch wide, about 24 millimeters. Just to give you a size perspective, I couldn't think of what to use. This is the size 15. This is the smallest seed bead. There is one smaller than this called 17. They're actually rare and hard to find, so I don't even want to bring that up. I actually can't even get them on a piece of wire, and it's real hard to thread the needle, so I wouldn't recommend anything smaller than a 15. That's a very challenging size to start with. 11s are the most common size. This is used mostly in bead weaving, if I'm making a clasp, things like that. I'm always using the 11s. This is the most popular size and the one that's easiest to find everywhere. 8s can be a difficult size not to work with. They're fabulous to work with. In fact, if 11s are too small for you, move up to the 8s. They're a nicer size with a larger hole in them. So it's a little bit easier for some of you who have trouble seeing or threading the needle. It doesn't matter if you're using a larger bead or a smaller bead. It just gives you a chunkier piece. And this is the 6. The 6 is the largest of the seed beads, and it's the one that I use in between as a separator bead right before a clasp. There's lots of ways you can use these. If you want to make something go really quick, use a size 6 with it. But remember, the larger the number with seed beads, the smaller the bead. These are basically the 4 sizes. I'm just going to stick to the basics here because it's easiest. And it's more or less about the finishes. So there's different finishes that you can get. So once you've got it figured out that you're getting a 15, 11, an 8, or a 6, you just need to know what finish, what color do you want. And when you're looking online, the colors are not the same as they are when you get them. And when you see all these colors, you say, oh my gosh, this is so confusing. Well, we're gonna break it down and take them one by one. Now these are translucent beads. They're literally the only translucent beads I have. The reason I don't buy translucent seed beads is these were actually in a mix and I pulled them out because they were so plain looking. Most beads are translucent. They're just plain glass. And they have filled the inside with either silver or a color and put a coating on the outside. That's basically what they've all done. So when you take a translucent bead like this and you add a coating to it, like this is just an AB, you can see the difference that it makes. The AB gives it some shine and luster and makes it all sparkly and beautiful. Just the plain translucent beads look boring and kind of yucky. And that's why I don't buy translucent beads. Coatings or silver lined or inside lined are really what we're looking at with beads. So don't get confused by all these little letters and finishes. That's all you're paying for is the finish. The different finishes on beads are what makes them different. It's otherwise just those same 4 sizes. We'll start out with this one. This is a metallic. You can find these almost anywhere. I got these at Joann's years ago. I don't know if they still carry them. These are from Czech. They're just plain gold size 6 seed beads. And these have just a plain gold finish on them. Now, the one problem with this finish is if it's in a spot that gets worn a lot, it can wear off. So you don't want to use this as the base of a bracelet or something that will get a lot of wear, because this will come off and it will turn into a clear bead. Now the other problem with metallic finishes, they can oxidize. So over time they can change color. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way it is. I actually love the gold seed beads. I use these a lot. There is another finish for gold, and it's called permanent finish. And it's double the price. And this is the one that you want to use if you're going to be in a, how shall I say this, high rubbing area or an area that is going to get worn a lot or pushed on a lot. This is the bead you want. Now, because it's double the price, if you're doing bead embroidery, that's not going to get a lot of wear. You don't want to waste your money on these. You want to use the regular gold beads, but you can also see the difference in color. These are from Japan and these are from Czech. So you'll also find that even different lots of beads will have different metallic colors. So sometimes if you're working with 2 bottles or you're making something that you're going to need more than 1 bottle, I try and mix the beads so that I get them scattered throughout so I get a more even tone. If you try to switch it halfway through, you'll see that it's halfway through a different color. Does that mean I would mix these two? Absolutely not, because these are double the price. I want to save these for a place that they will get a lot of wear. So on a bracelet, I would definitely use the permanent finish so that it will last and wear. Now here is another gold. This is just another shade of gold from the same company. So I just want to show you the permanent finish comes in a brighter color and the regular gold comes in a darker color. So it gets very confusing of why is this one darker and why is this one lighter? The permanent finish just is a brighter color. I don't know why. I have no rhyme or reason to it. Now there's also silver lined. Silver lined are the most popular. They're actually lined with sterling silver. And there's good and bad to that. The good is that you get this bright color inside of them, and they're actually very, very reasonably priced compared to the metallic colored ones. These are half the price of these, and they're 1/4 of the price of the permanent finish. So this all starts to add up when you're adding things in. Sometimes it's just about color for me, but for some people it's about price. So this one has a tendency to tarnish. If you store it in a Ziploc bag, you'll be fine. But if you don't, you'll find that the sterling silver inside will tarnish over time and it won't look as bright as it was. I actually think it's quite beautiful because it looks vintage, but some people it upsets them, so I just like to warn you in advance. Now there's also silver lined with a matte finish, and it's really neat to mix these up because they've got such texture to them. And the matte finish is just a different finish on top of the silver bead. And these come in all different colors. The metallics even come in colors, everything. I'm just going to show you the basics because we could be here literally for 5 hours. Now there's also metallic mix. This is called iris. I'm not sure why they call it iris, but iris is like this mix of different shades of colors. They're usually limited edition and they're usually quite beautiful and pricey. But I just want to show you that there is a difference. So when you see iris, it's almost like an AB kind of a thing or a mix like this. So this one has like a mix in it, which is quite beautiful. This is a check mix. It's got the silver lined, the matte lined, the silver lined AB, and some metallic ones. And these are really, really fun when you're starting out. Get a mix. It's a great way to get a little taste of everything and give you some sampling. This is a color lined. This is lined with a metallic color, so it's copper on a clear bead. And you can see how it gives that almost like loomy kind of iridescence to it because the clear glass is actually magnifying the color. So it's just a completely different look. This is a gold lined one. You can see I got it at Joann's years ago. This is a gold lined one and it has a blue glass with a gold lining, and that's how you get that different kind of a look. So every time the glass is lined with a different color, it gives a completely different effect. Here is a topaz with a mint green in the middle, almost like an aqua seafoam green, and that gives a completely different look than a matte bead. Somehow in here I forgot to show you the AB finish. This is my favorite. This picks up whatever color beads you have next to it. And that's what I love about it. It's this iridescent kind of a coating that comes to it. I really, really love this. It comes in all different colors and you can get mixed colors like this. This is, believe it or not, black. And they've just put the colors on top of it. And so it changes it up. This is amethyst that has the colors on it. And here is the plain amethyst that has, without the AB, you can see it's just that plain purple color. But with the AB, it changes it up. So you can see why I always pick up the AB. It's so much prettier than the plain one. I bought the plain one just because I didn't have any, and I thought I might like it, but I actually have quite a few of these left. I hardly ever use these. I always use the AB. I have to force myself to use these. Now, AB also comes in a matte finish. And here is the matte AB, and it's got a really beautiful iridescent, but just matte next to it. And this is really pretty when you mix it with the crystals and the sparkly beads, because it just gives this nice contrast. Or even next to polymer beads, this makes a really nice contrast. And if you have resin on your beads, then you have that shiny and that matte. I like that mix of contrasts and textures. Now these are opaque beads. Opaque beads are just what they're called. They're just basic solid colors. There's no special finishes on them. They're just your solid plain beads. Easy to figure out. So what you see is what you get. There's no sparkle to them. They're not matte. They're just plain solid glass colors. Now there's another coating called luster. And luster, I don't have a lot of these. They are a little bit delicate. When they mix with the skin acid, which is what makes a lot of the beads turn in color, especially on a choker, you'll notice that the beads closer to the neck will oxidize more than the beads that are lower down and on a blouse. It's the skin's acid that makes them turn quicker. And these luster beads have a tendency to be a little bit delicate in those areas. So I try to use these more in bead embroidery and other things, because the luster it's a very, how shall I say, it's not a soft coating, but it's a sensitive coating. It's not a really durable coating. So you'll lose that luster to them after wearing it 4 or 5 times. You'll see that this becomes basically an opaque bead. So I use them just in bead embroidery and things that won't be touching the actual skin, just because I don't want them to lose that luster. Just be aware of that when you buy these, that they're not going to be a highly durable bead, but they're a really pretty bead. Now this is called rococo. This is half the color on the bead. So it's a silver lined bead and half the bead is painted with red. And this is a silver lined green bead and half of it is painted with red. I really liked these. I wouldn't say they're terrible. They were just very pricey and I didn't think they were worth the price after I used them in some of my bead weaving projects. They're very pretty. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're just expensive. That was the only issue I had about them. Compared to the other beads, they were twice the price, so I just felt like I wasn't sure they were worth the difference. If you see them on clearance or something, I would pick them up, because they're really pretty, but I wouldn't go pay double the price for them. I don't think they're worth that extra. I'm sure you don't want my opinion on that, but I'm giving it to you anyway. Like here is a matte AB next to the color line bead, and you can see there's a huge difference how this one has like a clearness to it and this one is more flat and matte. And this is the AB on the matte, how it looks completely different than the AB on a regular bead, which is shiny. Here, I'll compare the two. This is an AB color lined, and that's what gets so confusing is when you see and color lined is usually defined as CL. So when you see CL AB, this is color lined AB. So it's got the same AB finish, which you see it's kind of like an iridescent rainbowy look on this. But instead of having a darker bead with the matte, you have a lighter bead, and you can see how the finish completely changes. So the matte is usually done as an MT. AB is the aurora borealis coating, which is the same thing that's on this. It's on both of them, but because one is matte, it's completely different looking. But it's very confusing when you're online shopping and you see these matte AB, color lined AB, CL, what are they talking about? It's all finishes. That's all they're talking about is what is the finish. So once you learn the finish, you're really set. So here you can see that you've got the silver lined in the larger and the smaller and how it just looks completely different just from the size of the bead. That's the only difference here. Now this one is something that everybody would never buy. I bought these literally at a show because they were half price. These are 24 karat gold coated. So these will last forever. I don't have to worry about these tarnishing or changing. But these were $45 a bottle. So just to give you an idea why you're not going to buy these. Just stay away from these. They're beautiful, but unless you're making a piece for yourself, these are totally unaffordable to use in your work that you sell. They're also, most people won't pay for what it's going to cost you. So I bought these just for a piece to make for myself, but I wanted to show you what the 22 karat gold looks like on the glass. It's quite beautiful, but does it look any different from a matte galvanized, which is 1/4 of the price? No, it doesn't. So unless you're making something that you're going to wear a lot, I was planning on making a bracelet with these. I would not wear, I would buy the matte galvanized. I think you'll get more bang for your buck. Now the matte galvanized is the metallic with a matte finish technically. And this gold has a matte finish also. So the finishes are really what confuses most people. The matte finish is just what it says, matte. Now here is the matte translucent. All you have to think about is sea glass. These remind me of sea glass. Every color that they have looks like sea glass because it's got that matte finish that the ocean would do on a translucent piece of glass. And here is one of my favorites. These are one of the hardest to find. This is called a Picasso finish, an Apollo finish. Different companies all call it different. What it is it's a specialty finish and it's only on part of the bead. And it gives almost like an antique artifact kind of an effect. So when you see these and you see they're really expensive, it's the finish. These are not glass beads. These are metal beads. These are my least favorite, but some people absolutely love them, so I wanted to show them to you. They have a giant hole in them. And if you're struggling with holes, these are size 6s. That see how large the hole is? It's almost like a Delica. A lot of people struggle with the holes and not having enough room for going back and forth and threading, and they love metal beads because of the larger hole. So just something to consider. It's the same size as a normal seed bead. So you can see the hole size difference is just larger. But there's no difference in the finish. It looks just like the metallic finish beads. I have honestly never used this in any jewelry for myself to tell you how they tarnish or not. I have no idea. I bought just this one bottle by accident, to be quite honest. I thought that they were glass and realized they were metal when I got home. They feel exactly the same weight, so it's one of those things that you just can't tell. But I'm partial to the smaller hole, honestly, so it really is a beading preference. One is not better than the other. So this one is a specialty finish. It's called Baroque Pearl. It's a really beautiful finish. It looks like a natural pearl almost. It's like a dyed pearl, and it's got all these lumps and bumps in it. It's quite beautiful. Looks fabulous in bead embroidery. I don't think any of you starting out would buy this, but it's one of those things that it's always nice to know about. Now this is another specialty rare coating. This is called Marble. Sometimes it's called Picasso. They mix this up with the other one. These are the rare specialty finishes. They're really beautiful. They can be a little bit more expensive and they can also rub off. So once again, you're kind of limited where you can use them because it's basically a opaque bead that they've just put a coating on, and it makes it look marbled. So it's really beautiful if you're using it for bead embroidery or something like that. But you want to be careful not to use this where it'll touch the skin because that skin acid will take the coating off and all of a sudden you'll have an opaque bead that will lose all of its beautiful luster. So it's not you, it's just what happens to some of these specialty finishes. If you want to avoid them because of that, I totally get it. I only have 2 bottles because of that. Now, packaging of your beads is really important in the aspect of how they sell beads. When you're buying online, it really matters. When you're buying them in person, you can see I've got a bag this big. Oh, that's a lot of beads. I'm good. You can see that they sell them by hanks. So the hanks, you know, oh, maybe I'll need 2 of these in case I separate the beads. Or the bottles, you can see these longer bottles have definitely more beads than the shorter bottles, but they usually sell the 15s in the shorter bottles because it's a huge amount. But some of them will sell them in the larger bottles, depends on the distributor at the show. The problem is everybody sells them either in a different amount so that you can never really price these out to say who's a better price than the other. Now the one thing online, this is a kilo of beads. When you're ordering online, you say, oh, well, I don't want to get something that's going to be too small. I need a kilo. A kilo of beads is huge. This will last me a lifetime. This is one of my favorite colors, so I didn't mind buying a kilo of it, and it was also mixed sizes. And you can see inside, I've started to separate them. Whenever I work with them, before I put them back in, I'll separate the ones that I have. So it's just easier that I'll separate and make little bags of whatever sizes I have, and then I don't have to go through them. So I've got all 4 sizes in here. Oh, and I love the fact that the sizes were mixed. Usually when you go to buy these, they're only one size, and unless you do a whole lot of that one color, it's an overload of beads. This is an overload for me, and I bead a lot. But just to let you know, don't make the mistake of ordering a kilo, order by the gram. This is to give you a size difference. This is the kilo, this is the grams. So you can get an idea. And every company sells a different amount. So I really can't tell you have to buy a certain size, but if you see this is the smaller size, this is probably what you want to get when you're starting out. You don't want to buy the larger sizes, because this is still a huge amount of beads as a beader just starting. Another cut of beads that's very, very popular are Delicas. Delicas, I would say, next to the 11s, are one of the most popular beads because they lock in together. They lay together really nice. You can make clasps with these. You can weave with these. They're just a really well-made bead that's very, very even and makes it really easy to weave with these. And they're equal to, I would say, a little bit larger than a size 11. The gold one is the 11s because they're more of a rounded bead, so they won't lock in the same as the Delicas will lock in because it's more of an elongated kind of a bead. And you can see the size difference. They're a little bit larger, but the hole in the Delicas is much larger, so you can make a lot more passes through that smaller bead. And beaders absolutely love Delicas because of this. They are one of the nicest little beads. I absolutely love them. If you have to pick between the Delicas and the 11s and you're starting out, I would pick the Delicas just because you're starting out and there's more you can do with the Delicas. You can add those just the same as an 11. And they sell them at Michael's and all different stores. They're a very common bead. Now they also come in larger sizes. You can't really tell the whole size on the smaller 11 size as much as you can on the 8 size. You can see how much larger the hole is on a bead like this versus the rounded beads. If you're looking for a bead with a larger hole, the Delicas all have larger holes in them. I know a lot of you struggle, and I do struggle with some of the smaller beads too, and the Delicas will be more of your friend than the regular seed beads. So here is my drawer of Delicas. I have 5 drawers like this of different colors, and this is just the golds and greens and yellows, and this is just to show you there's so many varieties of finishes and colors. That's why I say you could go crazy. But this was years and years of collecting, and like I said, people giving me and buying them here and buying them there. And these are Fire Mountain. As you can see, I've got them marked. I have to keep my Fire Mountain ones separate because I used to do their contests and I'd win, and then I'd win nothing but beads. So what do you think I got? More beads. The beads seem to multiply the more you do with them. I'm just going to show you some specialty beads real quick, just a few of the most popular. This one is cube beads, and they come in a 6, an 8, and an 11, just the same as the regular beads. They don't come any smaller than the 11. And you can see that the 11 is pretty small. Now, what is the beauty of these beads? They lock together. So if you're doing a square stitch, you can create a bracelet or something that has these all locked together, and you don't have to worry about them moving around. The other thing is, because they're square, they're kind of faceted. So if you see, like the smaller ones give like lots of little bit of sparkle to them. So you could use these just like you would as an 11 bead, but because the way it turns, it gives you that extra sparkle. The 8s are my favorite because they look like tiny crystals and they're a lot less money than the tiny crystals. So that's my favorite thing. And the matte ones, I just like them because they're different, and I'm always looking for something that's different. I call these my ugly beads. They're kind of an ugly color. They look like mustard. If you add an ugly bead to every piece, it gives it a pop. And for a while, my girlfriend always picked on me like, you and your ugly beads. But then she started to realize I was right. The ugly beads give the contrast to your piece. It's not about the color, it's the contrast. The contrast makes little things pop. Having those little things pop in your whole piece really makes it beautiful. So sometimes we can't figure out what's wrong. It's all looking mushy. Add an ugly bead. It doesn't necessarily have to be ugly. I mean, I think the color is gorgeous. Personally, I think it would look great with some pumpkin and fall colors. But some people call these ugly beads because they're just not sparkly and pretty like the other beads. But they do give the eye a place to rest, and that gives a pop to your piece. If it's all too sparkly or all too matte, there is no contrast. The contrast is really what makes it look interesting. Now these beads come same as the other beads with the different finishes. Here we've got the matte. I've got a metallic AB, a silver lined, and a color lined. I don't get a lot of the iris and all those other finishes in these beads just because they're hard to find, number one. And the other thing is, you don't need a whole lot of these. Like, this is a lifetime supply, these giant bottles that I have. So it's not something that I would really buy too much of. But cubes are a really cool thing in fringes because they give a lot of impact. They're great when you're bead embroidering. I just like different shapes, different sizes. It just adds interest to your work. And if you're a beader, you always are looking for something different just to add to your work. And here's my cubes. I know that you probably think I have all pink, but there's actually not a lot of pink cubes. They're kind of hard to find. Here's my 3 favorite colors. I love this red. This one is red lined amber. This is metallic gold iris. As you can see, it's got this, it's almost like an AB. The iris and the AB are pretty close. And this is a pink lined pink cube. So you can see there's just a lot of color to these. And I have some blues and greens, but I don't have a lot of cubes just because I have a lot of crystals. But I do love cubes. And here are my tiny cubes. These are those little teeny ones. I have a lot of the typical bronze colors. I prefer to keep those because they go with everything. The bronze, the gold, the silver. Your staples as a color. These reds and blues and purples, these are more accent colors. So I don't consider these as much as staple as the bronze and the gold and silver. And you can see I've got those. And of course black. I love the black matte. It's kind of weird, but I like to use, if I'm going to do black, I like to use the matte with the shiny next to each other. I love the contrast of beads. It's why I don't make my beads always shiny, because I like the contrast of my crystals or my shiny beads next to the matte polymer beads. Now here's another specialty, bugle beads. Bugle beads can come, this is like 1.5 inches long. They can be really long, gorgeous in fringe. You can also use these if you wanted to make a bracelet and go up and down and use them inside that way. There's lots of different ways you can use these. They are definitely a specialty bead. They are sold by the length. So if you're confused on how big they are, you can see here, this is probably like a 30 millimeter, the 1.5 inches. It's pretty long. These are a 3 millimeter compared to the 30 millimeter. You can see the size is substantially different. And of course, I would use these for completely different things. You can use these in bead embroidery, the smaller ones. You can use the larger ones for fringes or for a focal bead. You could even just line these up next to things. There's lots of cool ways you can use these. They come in all different sizes, but these are the twisty ones. You can see how this is just a plain white twisty one, and how the twist in it gives almost like an iridescence to it. This is a brown topaz-y color with an AB on it, so that has a different look to it. Every different finish will look completely different, and that's what's so confusing about them. Here are some straight cuts that have an AB matte finish on them. And you can see how you get a completely different effect from the metallic to the AB to just the clear. They are all a little different, and these are called dyed, so they're probably a clear bead with a color coating on top of them, and then this is your silver lined. So you can get a lot of assortment with these. but they can be extremely confusing. So when you buy them online, remember you're buying them by the length. Otherwise, you'll be even more confused. And the finishes are all the same as the seed beads, so it's just a matter of the twist is the difference with the bugles. And let me just give you a quick close-up on the bugles. These are 6mm bugles, all of them. This is the silver lined, this is the regular white, this is the clear white, this is the twisted white, so this is the exact same color. This is twisted, so it gives it a little bit more color. And then this one is a color lined AB, so you can see it a little bit better through the bottle. But I just wanted to show you the differences of how they can vary. It's really just the finish. They're all the exact same size bead. These two are twisted. These are all the same bead. It's just the different finishes that make them different. Now, another specialty bead is teardrops, or otherwise known as just drops. They're little teeny tiny teardrops, and you can see with a quarter how small these are. They're about the size of a size 6 seed bead in length, but they're actually teardrops. And you can see how they will form this little almost back and forth like pattern, the way they sit if you just string them straight. But you can also loosen them up and they will drop at the end. So if you're doing like tiny fringes, these are really cool on that. They're great in bead embroidery. There's a lot of patterns that use them as in-between separator beads. They're really cool. They just have a lot of uses, and of course they have all the same colors and finishes as the other beads. So here I've got just a few. Here are the metallic luster, which the luster has like almost a clearish kind of a look to it. It's not a solid metallic. If I show you, here's just a size 8s, but it's a solid metallic. You can see how this almost has like a loomy kind of metallic to it. It's very pretty. And then this is the color lined, and this is the pearl, just to give you an idea of colors. I'm going to show you just to give you an idea of different colors, but these are just a really interesting little bead. I wouldn't buy every color if I were just starting out. I would just buy 1 or 2 colors as an accent. Buy what you love, because that's what you're going to use the most. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview of all my little drop beads so you can see the different finishes and colors that they come in. And remember, this is like a 40-year collection, so don't expect to go out and come up with all of these tomorrow. And a lot of times people give me these as gifts for my birthday and things. They'll say, oh, I saw these unusual colors. This is matte black AB. This is pink lined amethyst. So this is a purple bead, purple glass with pink inside. So you can see how that gives a completely different effect. So the silver lined has a little bit more brightness to it compared to the other two. So you can see how the silver line's just got a little bit more pop, the color lined, and then the matte AB, because that really helps you when you're trying to figure out what the heck do I start with. Now this is the last on my specialty beads, because I could go with 2 whole beads, but that's a whole nother video, so I think I'm just best to stop here. This is the last of my specialty shapes on seed beads. And these are Magatomas. If you buy one, they're cool. If not, you're fine. These are probably my least favorite beads. I do like them in bead embroidery, but I just don't use them enough that I can justify them. Now, they have an up and a down. It's one of the things that I don't like about them, because if you don't have them in the right direction and you lay them next to each other, it'll be totally off and it'll drive you crazy. They're really pretty when you lock them down in bead embroidery with a size 11 seed bead in the middle there. But my problem is they just make me crazy because of the up and down sizes. They're not a bad bead. They're really a pretty bead. It's just, I've had so many times where I've put them in bead embroidery. I'm tired. I have one upside down and I have to pull the whole darn thing out. So that's why we're not friends. It's not that they're a ugly bead or a bad bead. They can just drive you crazy with that. They're an odd shaped bead. They don't lay like a teardrop or anything, so they're not, you got to kind of separate them with other beads. But they're a specialty bead. I have them. I wanted to show them to you because if you see them online and wonder what would I do with those, That's a really good question. They're basically bead embroidery, or you can use them in weaving, but you have to use them specifically for a pattern that's designed for these. And I don't have a lot of these, so I'm not going to show you my drawer full of them. I only have a few bottles because they drive me so crazy. And every once in a while, I force myself to use them so that I use them up because they drive me insane. I bought them thinking they were new and cool and unusual, and I was really glad that I didn't buy. They didn't have a lot because I don't really like them. And here are some of my size 6 seed beads. This is just a drawer of them, but here you can see where you could go crazy with colors. This is one of my classic examples of mixing 2 batches if you don't have enough. These are actually the exact same color bead. This was 2 batches. One is blue pink lined and the other one is blue pink lined. They're both Miyuki, and you can see buying them from 2 different people, I got 2 different dye lots. So this is where you want to buy enough that you can finish a project with 1 dye lot. And here you can see I've got like an iridescent loomy pink, I've got some bright silver lined yellow, and another deeper pink. So you can see how they vary just by the finishes. It's really all about the finishes that you're purchasing. And here is just a drawer out of my size 8 seed beads, just to show you the variety of colors and finishes that they have. Here is the Apollo or Picasso finish. This one is actually really beautiful. It almost looks like sea glass. This is matte translucent black AB finish. This is why the finishes get so confusing, because if you thought you were getting black beads and you got these, you probably would want to cry, even though they're gorgeous. But it's just that the names can really fool you. And silver beads, silver's always hard to find. So here you can see this is the gunmetal and this is the check. I just use my bottles over and over because I get so many of them on hanks. I need something to store them in. I don't want to put them all in bags. And I know, like me, you guys like to be nosy and see what I have and see what's in my drawers. And here is just some of my 15s, just my pink drawer 15s. And you can see they've got these really interesting colors of pink. Pink being the hardest color to find, I prefer to show you all the pinks. Here you can see I have a color lined one, a silver one, and these are just a solid color. But now this is 2 different distributors, and you can see they're 2 different shades. This one is darker than this one. So if I didn't have enough, I would mix these 2 together. But they definitely are from the same Miyuki company, just different dye lots. And that's why I always say buy 2 bottles if you're going to buy them at the same time, if you use a lot, just so that you have the same dye lot. Now, I know I put you on overload. Remember, there are 4 basic sizes of beads: 15s, 11s, 8s, and 6s. That's all you have to remember, and look for the finish that you love. That's all that really matters, because it's all about the finish and the size. So it's not as complicated as you may have thought. It's just that there's so many finishes that that part can be confusing. So just look for colors you love, and that will always make you happy. I hope I explained this and clarified a lot of the confusion for you, and thanks for watching.